This is Mike Clarke, reporting on the 100th day of World War III. You're tuned to ChannelX, broadcasting from what remains of the northern sector. The horizon still glows over what used to be Warsaw. Some say the fires there haven't gone out since the 5th week. The power grid flickers like dying embers. Across the eastern corridor, convoys from Germany and the Czech border are still evacuating civilians toward what they call neutral ground, a phrase that's starting to lose meaning. Food supply lines into northern France are cut again. To our listeners in Oslo and Edinburgh, if you can still hear this, hold fast. You're not forgotten. Reports confirm that Shanghai and Delhi have been struck again. Both cities now appear as vast shadows from orbit. Across the Atlantic, communication from the United States remains broken. Washington is silent. Chicago transmits nothing but static. Los Angeles, last seen glowing faintly from satellite heat scans, has vanished from view. And yet, amid all this silence, small voices persist. Teachers in tunnels, medics under collapsed bridges, parents whispering bedtime stories into dead microphones. ChannelX is still here for them, for you. We'll keep reading names, relaying truth, and holding this fragile line of sound between what's gone and what refuses to die. Stay tuned.
You're listening to ChannelX, the voice that survives. This is Julia Marks, speaking from the underground relay outside Manchester. The air filtration's weak, our batteries fading, but we're alive, and that still means something. Today marks 100 days since the first flash over the Pacific, 100 days since New York's skyline folded into dust, since Moscow's rivers turned black, since Tokyo's towers melted like wax. In the United States, the Mississippi River is reportedly glowing at night, residue from strikes that tore through the Midwest. From Philadelphia to Dallas, entire cities have become silent grids of steel and ash. And yet, Cairo still transmits faintly. A handful of survivors there are cultivating green shoots near the old university grounds. They have no power, no clean water, but hope, somehow, still grows. In Denver, a group of amateur broadcasters repaired a transmitter using car batteries. They've begun reading poetry into the void. Imagine that. Poetry, after all this. Maybe that's what survival really is, not strength, but memory. To those hiding beneath concrete or soil, to those who still dare to listen, you are not just survivors. You are witnesses, the last archivists of a dying world. Channel tags will stay with you until the signal ends, or we do.
Our instruments flicker. We're running on emergency circuits now. Reports from the United States continue to break apart. The West Coast is gone. Los Angeles, San Diego, Portland, obliterated in the opening month. New York's skyline was last seen reflected in its own smoke. The Pentagon's final transmission was a 5-second burst. Maintain signal. That was 70 days ago. Some say a small group of engineers and soldiers have retreated underground beneath Colorado Springs, keeping what's left of the data grid alive. If that's true, they are now the last historians of a vanished world. In Europe, the skies are thick with chemical haze. We can't even see stars anymore. But here's the strange thing. People keep looking up anyway, as if the act of staring into the dark might pull light back from it. That's what ChannelX has become, a small, defiant act of light. I don't know if anyone's listening, but if you are, remember this. We are more than our endings. As long as voices speak, humanity still exists.
I can almost hear the static breathing. It's that close to collapse. But as long as it carries our words, it's worth it. I received a fragment from what used to be Boston, someone broadcasting from a fishing boat anchored in the harbor. Their message was simple. The sea is still moving. It's strange how beauty survives even when civilization doesn't. Across the ruins of the United States, some towns are learning to trade again, barter systems rising among the ashes. In Kansas, survivors use old railways to move supplies between shattered towns. In what remains of Florida, fishermen use floodlights powered by scavenged generators to guide refugees along the coast. Humanity is cracked, bleeding, but alive. Maybe that's all this war can't erase, the instinct to persist, to look at the fire and still speak into it. This is Julia Marks. We don't promise hope, but we promise truth. If you can still hear Channel X, hold this frequency. Don't let go. As long as someone listens, the world is not entirely gone.
Transmission is steady, for now. Reports from the Pacific Front confirm total communication loss between Seoul and Tokyo. Satellites show the Korean peninsula shrouded in radiation storms, aftermath of the Southern Exchange 2 days ago. The Pacific is no longer a route. It's a graveyard of signals. Australia has declared a radio silence perimeter to shield what remains of its eastern coast, while New Zealand's emergency network blinks faintly once every hour, like a heartbeat. Across the ocean, the United States has fractured into quiet zones. The western seaboard, Los Angeles, Seattle, San Francisco, gone dark under atmospheric distortion. The Midwest has become a corridor of refugee camps, their generators running on wind scavenged from ruined turbines. From New York to Chicago, scattered transmissions report looting, fires, and a silence deeper than ruin. And yet, through all that, faint voices persist, citizens, not soldiers. A mother reading bedtime stories into an old ham radio, a mechanic teaching children how to rebuild filters. Humanity invents new ways to stay human. Every syllable, every breath over static is resistance. This is Mike Clarke, Channel X. We're still here, and if you can hear us, so are you.
Some of you have written, yes, handwritten letters, left at abandoned post offices, hoping someone will find and forward them someday. We've received a few, relayed by wandering couriers through what used to be trade routes. One came from Lisbon. It said simply, "If someone hears this, know that the sea is still blue." I can't stop thinking about that. Amid devastation, someone looked at the ocean and found beauty still worth mentioning. Across the Atlantic, America's eastern coast has fallen silent, but smaller communities along the Appalachian ridges are sending out Morse pulses, SOS, food requests, sometimes just names. In Washington, a flicker of power was detected last night. No speech, just light. Maybe it means someone's still there, refusing to vanish. That's why we keep broadcasting. Not for governments, not for command, but for remembrance, for the stubborn pulse of existence itself. If you're hiding in a shelter tonight, if your radio flickers between frequencies, hold on to this voice. You are not forgotten. You are the proof that we mattered. Channel X is with you.
To the refugees crossing what's left of the Balkans, you're heading into cold territory. Supplies are scarce, but Scandinavian relief teams have reopened a route near Trondheim. If you find a blue flag marked with 3 white dots, that's the signal for safe water. Repeat. Blue flag, 3 white dots. Channel X verifies it. Our final update before the next cycle. UN peace transmissions have ceased entirely. The satellites are gone. That leaves us and you. The world might be silent, but silence isn't surrender. Keep your radios charged, conserve power, and trust your instincts. This is Channel X. The light may be faint, but it's still burning.
From beneath Manchester's cracked concrete, I can hear the hum of the generator fading. We'll have to cut power soon, but before we do, listen closely. Somewhere above us, the world still breathes. Birds still fly over ruined cathedrals. Rivers still run through scorched valleys. Life doesn't vanish. It hides, it waits, it heals. We will too. This is Julia Marks signing off this segment for Channel X. We'll return as long as we can. Remember, sound is survival. Keep listening.
This is still Channel X, and I'm Mike Clarke. Reports are streaming in, fragmented but real. The Eurasian Front has begun its largest mobilization since the start. Columns of armor are pushing through what used to be Poland, moving east toward the shattered remains of Belarus. Satellite traces show convoys stretching for miles, some military, most refugee. Entire regions are blurring between soldier and civilian. The Northern Federation is calling it a strategic sweep. Those who've seen it call it an exodus. In Turkey, the skies remain thick with drones, flocks of them, endless, circling like metallic vultures. The Black Sea burns again tonight. We're told Odessa has fallen silent, and that Bucharest was hit twice within the last 6 hours. Yet even now, I hear whispers of resistance, small towns refusing evacuation, local transmitters rising from the ruins. People will fight not just for nations, but for homes, streets, and the sound of their own language. Channel X stands with them. We speak so their silence isn't final.
Mike, the fighting east of the Danube is spilling further than anyone thought possible. The Central Defense Bloc, what's left of the old NATO, has withdrawn to the Alpine ridges. Entire brigades are missing. Their command frequency's dead. But the most haunting reports come from the Asian corridor. The Pacific Alliance launched coordinated airstrikes over western China after a series of cyber attacks shut down their satellite grid. Civilians describe the sky as liquid fire. Cities like Xi'an and Lanzhou are reported uninhabitable. To the south, Myanmar and Thailand are trying to form humanitarian corridors, but border lines mean nothing now. Every nation is bleeding into the next. Refugees from Vietnam are moving into Laos, Laotians into Cambodia. It's a river of humanity with no direction. If you can hear this, if you still have the strength to move, head toward stable zones. Southern India, inland Africa, northern Chile. The air's clearer there, for now.
We just received a coded burst from the Arctic Relay Network. Confirmation that nuclear submarines from at least 3 major fleets have gone silent beneath the polar ice. Their locations, unknown. Command authorities are denying loss of control, but the silence speaks louder than their denials. The Eastern Coalition has accused the Northern Union of sinking civilian transport convoys in the Barents Sea. If that's true, the last remaining northern route is lost. I'll tell you this plainly. The old world maps don't matter anymore. Europe's borders are smoke. Asia's cities are graves. The Pacific is becoming a minefield of drifting steel. But people, ordinary people, are the only things still crossing lines freely. Humanity is moving like a tide, and no government can stop it. Channel X will keep tracing that tide until our frequency dies.
Mike, the word coming from the southern relays is that the Saharan belt has begun airlifting children out of conflict zones. Volunteer pilots flying retrofitted cargo planes are risking everything to ferry survivors from the Middle East and Eastern Europe down into the desert sanctuaries. Some of these flights are coordinated by civilians, former airline crews, no military backing, just courage and fuel. They call themselves the Sand Line. It's proof that war may destroy nations, but not humanity's instinct to protect itself. In Tehran, makeshift hospitals operate from metro tunnels. In Ankara, engineers are building solar grids out of scavenged panels. Hope looks ugly now, covered in dust and ash, but it's still alive. If you're out there under open sky, keep your head down, your radio tuned, and your faith intact. We're with you.
Latest intercepts confirm the Eastern Federation has tested something called ion sweep, a weapon designed to erase digital infrastructure across entire continents. It's not a bomb, it's silence. Every data line, every satellite, every network node in range, gone. That's why half the stations you used to hear are now static. They're not destroyed. They've been erased. The war is entering a new phase, one where light and sound themselves are targets. That's why Channel X keeps broadcasting in analog, through copper wire and shortwave. The world is being turned off, and we refuse to go quiet. So long as the air carries current, we'll be here. Keep listening.
As we close this segment, I want to remind everyone, this isn't just a war of weapons. It's a war of memory. Every voice you send across these frequencies becomes a record of who we were. When historians can't write, when cities can't stand, it's the sound of people speaking that will outlast the fire. Channel X is your voice and your witness. To those huddled beneath collapsed towers, to those marching beneath ash clouds, don't lose the will to speak. The world hasn't ended yet. It's still waiting for someone to rebuild it. This is Julia Marks. You're still listening to Channel X, the station that survives.
You're still tuned to Channel X. This is Mike Clarke, and the air outside smells like burning salt. The Pacific's no longer a sea. It's a battlefield stitched together by wreckage. We've confirmed reports of clashes between the Pacific Alliance and the Oceanic Bloc near what used to be the Mariana Trench Zone. Drone footage, grainy, corrupted, shows flotillas of autonomous ships fighting without command. The war has reached a point where machines battle long after their operators are dead. Southward, the Andean front is collapsing under strikes from orbital platforms. The city of Santiago has gone dark. Buenos Aires flickers between silence and desperate broadcasts asking for medical aid. Across the equator, the central Amazon corridor burns again. Fires so vast the smoke has blocked satellites. And through it all, scattered voices, tiny stations, trying to speak through the interference. Every time we say Channel X, we mean everyone is still transmitting truth into the noise. You, me, and every last survivor with a signal strong enough to defy oblivion.
Mike, I'm looking at the Pacific maps right now, if you can even call them maps anymore. The entire Western Ocean looks like a wound. Australia has sealed off its coastlines, calling it Containment Protocol 7. No ships in, none out. But that hasn't stopped the refugees from sailing. The Drift Armada, that's what they're calling it, thousands of civilians in makeshift boats forming a floating city somewhere between Fiji and Samoa. There's word that the Southern Republic of Chile is sending supplies, but every convoy risks interception. It's hard to believe this was once a world of tourism and trade. Now it's a sea of desperate survivors chasing radio signals. From where I sit, underground and trembling, I think the real war now isn't for land. It's for connection. Every transmission that reaches across these black waters is a victory, and every silence is a loss we can't measure.
Further north, the Pacific Ridge has become a new front. The remains of what once were naval bases in Hawaii have turned into refugee outposts. Small islands, once vacation spots, now serve as triage centers for burned and radiation-sick families. We've heard unconfirmed reports that remnants of the United Continental Navy are regrouping near the remnants of Alaska's southern ports, trying to rebuild command under civilian oversight. If that's true, it could be the first sign of stability in months. But I'll tell you, Julia, even the most hardened soldiers sound weary now. They're no longer fighting for victory, just for meaning. I can hear it in their voices when we catch a transmission from the north. It's not about flags anymore. It's about who's left to listen. That's what keeps me on this microphone.
Mike, we just received a pulse transmission through the Atlantic secondary line. It's faint, but it's coming from somewhere off the coast of Recife, Brazil. The South Atlantic Confederation claims they've secured a perimeter and are offering asylum to displaced populations from Europe. It's the first structured coalition we've heard about in weeks. But the reports come with a warning. Skirmishes have broken out between northern fleets trying to claim the same route. They say rogue submarines operating under no flag are targeting aid ships. The seas themselves have turned predatory. Still, something in me refuses to believe this is the end. Maybe, amid all this destruction, a new world is taking shape, a world of the desperate, the brave, and the stubbornly alive. ChannelX will keep its signal pointed south tonight. If you're on those waters, listen for us. You're not alone.
Julia, that pulse from Recife connects with what we've been hearing through the northern cables. The Polar Axis Treaty, once theoretical, might actually be forming. There's chatter of hidden negotiations between remnants of old superpowers. Code names like Iron Summit, Black Aurora. If that's true, this war is shifting again. Out of chaos, back into strategy. We know what that means. When governments start talking again, it's not peace they're after. It's position. Somewhere in the static, we've picked up encrypted fragments naming 3 powers preparing for re-entry into open conflict. They're calling it the Triad. No confirmation yet, but if those names are what I think they are, we're standing at the edge of something catastrophic. Listeners, brace yourselves. The old giants are waking.
The Triad. We've all heard the rumors, Mike, but if they're true, if those 3 names really mean what they used to, then everything that's burned so far might have only been the prelude. We've spent 100 days watching nations vanish, cities erased, oceans set aflame. But the true storm might only just be gathering. For those of you listening, this isn't fear-mongering, it's a warning. Something's shifting behind the smoke. The signals are tightening, the codes cleaner, the silence deliberate. This war isn't ending, it's focusing. ChannelX will stay on air through the transition. The next voice you hear may be the one that confirms it. Stay tuned. Don't lose the frequency. This is Julia Marks, holding the line.
You're still tuned to ChannelX. This is Mike Clarke, and I can confirm what we feared. The Triad is real. 3 signals, each distinct, triangulated from opposite sides of the world. The Western Command frequency reactivated at 1800 hours. Origin, North American continent, likely eastern seaboard. The second, Directive Echo from Siberian relay sectors, undeniably Russian. And the third, a clean rhythmic transmission out of the eastern continental grid, Chinese in origin, structured, deliberate. For 100 days, these powers were ghosts. Now they speak again. Their first words were not peace treaties. They were ultimatums. Each claims possession of orbit, of what remains above us. The sky, it seems, has become the last piece of disputed land. No one's calling it surrender. They're calling it reclaiming humanity's future. I've heard that phrase before, back when every speech hid a threat. The world's biggest guns are talking again, and I don't think they're finished loading.
Mike, we've all seen this pattern before. Silence followed by certainty. The United States Continental Authority has resurfaced from beneath Denver's shielded command bunkers. They're calling themselves the Continuity. Their first broadcast declared the formation of a unified reconstruction zone stretching from the Rockies to the Mississippi. But those of us who've lived through these 100 days know what reconstruction really means. Control. Meanwhile, the Eurasian Federation, now effectively ruled from Novosibirsk, is claiming they alone have maintained civilization's discipline. Their message was blunt. Order will return, even if it arrives through fire. China's new voice, calling itself the Celestial Directive, transmits nothing but data bursts, machine-encoded, repeating the same 3 symbols: unity, silence, obedience. The Triad has stopped fighting for land. They're fighting for the right to define survival itself.
The reactivation of these superpowers has shifted every battlefield overnight. Reports from Alaska confirm American drones now sweeping northward to secure Arctic supply lines. Conflict with Russian patrols is already underway. Near Vladivostok, Chinese satellites are repositioning, claiming strategic deterrence zones. Civilians on both coasts have started to move inland again, terrified of being caught between giants. What remains of Europe watches from beneath the ashes, unclaimed, unprotected, unwanted. You can hear it in every transmission, governments rising from graves, speaking as though the world didn't already bury itself. I don't know who wins a war fought by ghosts, but I know who loses, the living. Still, ChannelX stays on the air. Someone has to tell the truth while the powers rewrite it.
Mike, the truth is becoming harder to separate from propaganda. I've intercepted a triad transmission meant for psychological broadcast, designed to reignite national loyalty. It plays old anthems beneath their coded messages. You hear them, and for a moment you almost believe it's hope, but it's not. It's conditioning. The people who've survived the bombs aren't nations anymore. They're fragments of memory stitched together by will. The continuity promises food for allegiance, the Federation offers safety for silence, and the directive demands obedience as proof of faith. But no one talks about freedom anymore. I wonder if that word still has a frequency. If it does, I hope we're still broadcasting on it.
A contact inside what's left of Geneva just transmitted something remarkable. A joint declaration written not by governments, but by civilians from all three regions. They call themselves the Accord of the Unaligned. It's short, almost poetic. We will speak across the ruins until no one remembers who owned them. That's it. No demands, no threats, just a promise. Maybe that's the real resistance now, not armies, not nations, but words shared across impossible distances. Julia, if you can hear me from that bunker in Manchester, know this. The line between us still exists, and as long as it does, humanity hasn't lost yet.
I hear you, Mike. Loud and clear. And maybe that's the point. The giants can burn the sky, but they can't own the air between us. To everyone still listening, scattered across the edges of the old world, remember this moment. The war that began as conquest is now a war of voices. We may not have flags, but we have frequencies, and that's enough. Channel text will stay on this wavelength, even as the triad closes its grip. Keep your transmitters alive. Keep the current flowing. Keep the words moving. This is Julia Marks, and you're still listening to Channel X, the voice that refuses to disappear.
You're still with Channel X. Day 100 and counting, but the number barely matters now. The front lines aren't maps anymore. They're streets, homes, and shelters. Civilization is dissolving faster than the bombs can fall. London's grid failed this morning. The city's last generators shut down when the Thames flooded through the substation tunnels. Paris burned for 2 straight nights before vanishing beneath its own smoke. Berlin's government bunker transmitted a single phrase before going dark. No chain of command remains. In New York, the lower half of Manhattan is underwater after the Hudson barriers failed. Survivors are moving north toward the Catskills, building camps out of shattered skyscraper glass and twisted rebar. In Tokyo, people broadcast emergency messages by tapping Morse code on steel pipes, an entire city speaking in echoes. Across South America, Brazil's cities are abandoned. People live along old railways, cooking roots and moss. Every nation has collapsed into survival. We've gone from digital empires to barter and firelight in 100 days. The question now isn't who wins, it's who's left.
Mike, it's the same story here in Europe. Borders have become rumors. I've seen caravans moving through the ruins of Brussels, thousands on foot carrying what's left of their families. Children trade batteries for food, and no one asks where the power came from. In Moscow, the winter has swallowed half the city. Reports say the Kremlin dome collapsed under artillery fire 2 days ago. Beijing's outer ring is uninhabitable. Radiation alarms trigger every hour. In Delhi, the air itself has become poison. Entire districts have vanished beneath the smog of burning fuel depots. Australia's coastlines are gone. The Pacific swallowed Sydney's harbor and left its skyline tilting like broken teeth. What's left of humanity is scattered. Islands of life surrounded by oceans of silence. The satellites are still up there, blinking like ghosts, but no one's listening. Civilization hasn't fallen all at once. It's fading, city by city, until the map is nothing but memory.
We used to talk about the end of the world like it would come in a single moment, a flash, a final detonation. But it's not like that. It's slower, quieter. It's a mother boiling snow for her child in a rusted tin, somewhere outside Warsaw. It's a doctor in Lagos using candlelight to stitch a wound with wire. It's a boy in Los Angeles walking through the ashes of his own street, reading names from cracked pavement. The systems failed, but people didn't vanish. They endure, stubbornly, painfully. I've spoken with survivors from Cairo to Montreal. They all say the same thing. They remember the sound of power dying, that low, empty hum before the lights went out forever. Civilization didn't explode. It suffocated.
That sound. Yes, I remember it too. It wasn't just power grids. It was everything we thought permanent. Banks, governments, even language. The internet's final upload froze at 3:17 UTC, somewhere over Iceland. Half a poem, half a weather alert. Now people carve messages into concrete or send scraps of radio into static. The collapse wasn't the end of humanity's progress. It was the beginning of our silence. I've seen farmers turn war machines into plows. I've seen soldiers guarding fields instead of borders. The world's rebuilding itself, but not as civilization, as survival. Humanity is smaller now, but maybe that's the only way it lives.
If you're still alive out there listening, you are civilization. You are the last page that hasn't burned. Don't think in nations or flags anymore. Think in food, in fire, in breath. Think in the faces around you. This broadcast isn't for history, it's for heartbeat. Every time someone tunes in, the world still exists. Every time someone replies, it refuses to die. So keep your radios powered, keep the signal alive. This is Mike Clarke, and I'm not signing off. Not yet.
And I'm Julia Marks. We've watched the world forget itself, its cities, its lights, its certainty, but not its people. Somewhere in the ruins, a voice is still speaking, a hand is still reaching, and a signal, this signal, is still traveling across the dark. Maybe that's what survival really is. Not strength, not power, just the will to speak, one more time. This is ChannelX, broadcasting from the end for those who refuse to disappear.
This is ChannelX, still alive, still transmitting. Across the globe, the destruction hasn't stopped. It's spreading, widening like cracks through glass. Africa's central corridor has gone dark. Satellites confirm entire swaths of the Congo Basin aflame after weeks of uncontrolled fires. Johannesburg's skyline is nothing but steel shadows. In South America, Sao Paulo's government collapsed this morning. Their last transmission begged anyone to save the children. Buenos Aires is underwater after the Rio de la Plata breached its defenses. Mexico City fell silent last night. Survivors are heading north toward the deserts, chasing rumors of stable weather that no longer exists. In the Middle East, the Tigris and Euphrates are both toxic. Damascus is gone, flattened by orbital strikes that missed their original target. The great cities that defined our history are now dust. Civilization was built to be permanent. Turns out, permanence was our greatest myth.
Mike, I can confirm similar reports from the European sector. Spain's coastline has vanished beneath surging tides. Italy, what's left of it, is being evacuated inland toward the Alps, though most of the routes are blocked by collapsed tunnels. France's south has become a fire zone. Wild blazes stretch from Marseille to Lyon. Germany's industrial heartland is leaking chemicals into the Rhine, killing everything for miles downstream. The United Kingdom is a patchwork of silence. Scotland isolated, London abandoned. Across the globe, once great capitals are fading into smoke and memory. People speak of them like legends, not places. The destruction isn't random anymore, it's systematic. Nature, machines, and desperation all working in concert, erasing us city by city. And still, the radios keep humming. That's the last heartbeat of the modern world, static.
Asia has fractured completely. Beijing's ghost districts stretch for hundreds of miles. Radiation storms make the land uninhabitable. Shanghai has turned into an archipelago of broken towers, water climbing to the 40th floor. Seoul's last transmissions came from a subway bunker where survivors have been living for weeks, rationing air more carefully than food. India's plains are famine zones. Entire villages walk east toward the coast, only to find the ocean has risen to meet them. Tokyo's underground shelters are overcrowded. One of our field operators says people communicate now by scratching messages on tunnel walls. Still alive. Still listening. That's humanity, stripped bare. No nations, no systems, just people trying to stay human.
In North America, the story isn't much different. The United States has fractured into enclaves. Washington, D.C. is an empty monument. Los Angeles burned itself out during the fuel riots. The Pacific reclaimed what fire couldn't. Chicago is under martial control by local militias. Canada's south is overflowing with refugees. Alaska remains a militarized zone between collapsing powers. South of the border, Central America has vanished beneath both war and weather. It's as if the continents themselves are rejecting us. Every broadcast we intercept tells the same story: hunger, exhaustion, disbelief. No matter the language, the tone is the same: defeat, and the stubborn refusal to die quietly.
We were raised to believe progress was inevitable, that the world would always rebuild. But what if this time, rebuilding isn't possible? The earth itself is fractured. Storms that last weeks, rivers that burn, skies that pulse with static. The old world isn't just destroyed, it's unrecognizable. And yet, beneath the rubble, humanity claws upward. A medic in Nairobi treating patients with salt water. A teacher in what used to be Madrid, still teaching history to 6 children who've never seen electricity. A soldier in Siberia who refuses to fight anymore, guarding a greenhouse instead. We are fragments, but still moving, still breathing. Maybe that's the last definition of civilization, refusing to stop moving forward, even when forward no longer exists.
I think you're right, Mike. Civilization wasn't the buildings or the systems. It was the instinct to connect. Every time someone fixes a broken radio, every time a mother tells her child what the stars used to look like, the world remembers itself. But make no mistake, the earth has fallen apart. The oceans have changed color, forests burn where rain used to fall, and the maps we once trusted are nothing but fiction. What remains is us, the listeners, the wanderers, the survivors. The old world is gone, but we're still here speaking into the dark. This is ChannelX, and as long as someone hears us, humanity hasn't ended. Not yet.
This is ChannelX. The transmission continues, even as the world beneath it fades. Europe, the old continent, the birthplace of history, music, and war, is collapsing into its own shadow. Berlin's government bunkers are silent. Vienna's riverbanks are lined with rusted vehicles, their owners long gone. Paris, once the symbol of art and light, is a field of collapsed rooftops, its cathedrals stripped for shelter and fuel. In London, the Thames barrier finally gave way. Water filled the underground tunnels until the trains floated like coffins. What remains of Spain has split in two, north held by remnants of local militias, south drowned under violent storms. The Balkans burn again, not from politics this time, but from starvation. People trade food for air filters, medicine for bullets. Scandinavia has fallen quiet. Finland and Norway both cut off by the northern fires. Entire forests turned to smoke visible from orbit. I used to think Europe was too old, too scarred to die. But it's dying anyway, piece by piece, and no one is left to bury it.
Mike, I'm receiving fragments from the Middle East, each message shorter than the last. Baghdad is gone. The Tigris carries chemical slicks that glow at night. Damascus is nothing but gray rubble and rain. The oil fields of Basra burned for 40 straight days, turning the horizon into molten glass. Mecca's evacuation failed after the desalination grid collapsed. Millions fled north. Many never arrived. Jerusalem's old city was struck by drones last week. The towers flattened, the Wailing Wall half buried under its own stones. Cairo's population scattered into the desert, the Nile reduced to a trickle of poison. Tehran's last words were a digital signature, no water left. Across the region, faith and fuel run out together. In the ruins of Aleppo, a single radio still transmits Quranic verses on loop. No voice, just the recording, whispering into static. The birthplace of civilization, of language and belief, is silent now. The irony isn't lost on anyone. The land that taught the world to speak may be the last to stop speaking.
The collapse is no longer just physical. It's historical. Libraries in Prague and Florence have burned, their archives erased forever. Art, music, and literature, centuries of human memory, are disappearing faster than we can name them. Europe's rivers carry ash instead of ships. Refugees move along the motorways, silent columns of faces heading nowhere. The air is heavy with a kind of quiet I can't describe. It isn't peace, it's vacancy. In Greece, the Parthenon crumbled after a quake, the old marble splitting like bone. Istanbul, that bridge between continents, fell 3 nights ago. A chain of detonations turned the Bosporus black. The city that outlived empires is now a mirror of fire. From Moscow to Madrid, from Rome to Warsaw, the lights are gone. The continent that once defined humanity's height has reached its depth. Yet somehow, the radios persist. Wires twisted together. Power drawn from batteries scavenged out of wreckage. Still sending faint signals into the dark. That's all that's left of Europe now. Ruins that still try to speak.
And in the Middle East, the last human sound is the wind. It moves through the broken mosques and glassless towers like breath through a hollow lung. The Red Sea glows faintly from oil fires that have burned so long they reflect in the clouds. In Beirut, survivors transmit coordinates for food caches, though most are already empty. Jordan's refugee zones are cities of tents. No walls, no borders, just sand. Iran's reactors went silent days ago, the grid fried beyond repair. Even the language of survival is changing. People communicate in symbols, drawings, gestures, anything faster than speech. What's happening here isn't just destruction, it's forgetting. Humanity is erasing itself in real time. And yet through all of this, ChannelX still broadcasts. Maybe that's all we can do now, bear witness. Because when the last transmitter dies, so will memory. And without memory, the world ends twice.
This is ChannelX. The static's thinner tonight. Maybe that's what calm sounds like now. Across the ruins of Europe, fragments of life are starting to flicker. In the Alps, whole families have dug into the mountains, running cables through the rock to power lights from melted snow turbines. A group of engineers in what's left of Munich built a water purifier out of aircraft filters. Children are drinking clear water for the first time in months. In Poland, an old subway tunnel has become a market. Candles, bread, batteries. No money anymore, just trade. The people there have a rule: no weapons underground. They say it keeps the darkness honest. Even in the ashes, rules still matter. I spoke with a woman who teaches children using scraps of burned books. She said, "If they can still read, we haven't vanished." I think she's right. The world's still ending, but people are beginning to live through it instead of dying in it.
Mike, the same thing is happening here in the Middle East. Against every prediction, small communities are rebuilding, quiet and stubborn. Near the old Dead Sea coast, farmers have turned salt flats into solar fields. They trade power for grain from the north. In Lebanon, a group of musicians turned a bunker into a school, teaching harmony by tapping on metal drums. In Tehran, a collective of medics and programmers restored a hospital wing, powering machines with scavenged batteries. The word rebuilding feels wrong. It isn't rebuilding, it's remembering how to be alive. The cities are gone, yes, but humanity hasn't dissolved. It's adapting. In every fragment of light, there's a reflection of what we used to be, and what we could still become if we learn to listen to one another again. Maybe the future isn't about rebuilding cities. Maybe it's about rebuilding people.
I intercepted a signal from the northern forests, somewhere between Norway and Sweden. A small colony has established a working transmitter. Their message looped for hours. We have warmth, we have food, we have room. That was it. No name, no demand, just an invitation. It spread across every surviving frequency in Europe like wildfire. By morning we received confirmations, families walking hundreds of kilometers through snow toward that voice. It made me realize something. Survival isn't just endurance, it's direction. A signal, even a weak one, can pull people back from the edge. I think that's what ChannelX has become, a compass for the lost. The world might never be what it was, but if voices can still find each other through static, then there's still a line connecting us. Maybe civilization doesn't end. It just whispers.
In the old refugee zones of Cairo, small greenhouses are appearing, patched from glass scavenged off skyscrapers. People grow herbs and grain under reflected moonlight. There's a kind of poetry in that. Life thriving beneath the bones of death. The Red Sea coast has stabilized. The fires burned out, leaving fertile soot. Children fish again from the shallows, pulling up tin cans and occasionally a living creature. Near Baghdad, what remains of a library has become a gathering point. People trade stories instead of food. Each night they light candles inside broken shelves and read to whoever will listen. Those stories, half memory, half legend, are the only currency left that can't be stolen. I keep thinking maybe that's what will save us. Not walls, not weapons, but words.
Across the Atlantic, I'm hearing similar reports. Pockets of humanity, unconnected but alive. In Iceland, geothermal plants still hum. A handful of scientists are using them to broadcast shortwave weather updates. In Portugal, fishermen have returned to the sea on boats powered by wind sails stitched from old flags. In Russia's Ural region, miners have sealed off tunnels and built a community lit by coal fires. The world has fractured into tiny lights, scattered like stars across a dead sky. But stars are enough to navigate by. If there's a meaning to survival, maybe it's that. The ability to shine without a sun. This is Mike Clarke, still transmitting, still believing that the smallest sparks matter.
And I'm Julia Marks. The cities may have fallen, the nations may be gone, but people have not. Every voice on this network proves it. Somewhere, someone is teaching a child to speak again, another is planting seeds, another repairing a radio so they can hear this broadcast. That's what civilization was always meant to be. Not power, not control, but continuity. A line of sound that refuses to die. To everyone listening, you are not alone. You are the proof that we mattered. This is Channel X, the frequency of the living. Hold it close, keep it alive, and let it remind you that even in ruins, the world is still ours.
This is Channel X. The map has changed again, if maps still mean anything. Across what used to be Western Europe, borderless armies are forming. Not nations, not ideologies, just hunger wearing camouflage. In southern France, 2 settlements went to war over a water reservoir. 300 people died for 20,000 liters. In what's left of Berlin, militias have carved the city into sectors, broadcasting propaganda over loudspeakers that barely work. The air smells like melted plastic and wet ash. The European Union ended 100 days ago, but the flags are back, painted on walls, torn into armbands, weaponized nostalgia. Humanity keeps rebuilding the same ghosts. A soldier I interviewed yesterday said, "Peace feels like waiting for war." He wasn't wrong. Even the sky feels tired of us.
Mike, it's the same here. The Middle East has become a graveyard of coalitions. Not governments, not faiths, just fragments of people fighting for what's left. The Euphrates is poison. Armored trucks move along its banks, collecting sludge to filter for drinking water. In Jerusalem, the last hospital was stormed by a group calling themselves the Renewal. They claimed they were saving humanity by cleansing it. No one survived. In Riyadh, energy vaults have turned into fortresses. The oil's useless now, but people die protecting it anyway. Old habits don't die, they reload. And through it all, radios keep humming, voices shouting promises of rebirth that no one believes. Sometimes I wonder if the war never ended. Maybe it just learned how to live inside us.
Reports from Eastern Europe tell the same story. Romania's farmlands turned into trenches again. Poland's cities flicker with chemical fires. A man from Bucharest described the horizon to me. He said it looked like a heartbeat made of smoke. I didn't ask what that meant, but I understood. Every explosion, every revenge raid, every desperate act of survival, it's the pulse of a dying species still pretending it can win. I used to think the world ended with silence, but it's ending with noise. Armored drones still circle over ruined capitals, programmed by nations that no longer exist. Somewhere, code is still executing war orders from computers buried under rubble. Machines fighting for ghosts. And here we are, broadcasting into the static, trying to remember what words like ceasefire even mean.
Africa's not immune either. The Sahel region has fractured into hundreds of armed communes. They burn old cities to grow crops in the ashes. In Cairo, I watched men fight over a solar battery like it was gold. Across the continent, the word tribe has returned, not as heritage, but as survival language. People band together not by nation, but by memory, by whatever fragments still make sense. In South Africa, the last government facility was stormed last week, its archives deleted, its history erased. Every continent is erasing itself now, one burned library at a time. I used to believe stories could save us, but maybe they're just the fuel.
Asia's lines are gone too. China's interior has fractured. Military remnants, corporate enclaves, survivalist provinces. Satellite feeds show massive fires in the Pearl River Delta. Tokyo is silent again. Its last transmissions looping evacuation alerts that no one answers. In the Russian Far East, soldiers turned miners. Miners turned scavengers. The Ural tunnels are collapsing, but they keep digging, maybe out of habit. The United States is still quiet. Too quiet. Only fragments of military chatter, encrypted and fading. Whatever command still exists, it's watching, waiting. Maybe that's what power has become now. The ability to wait while the rest of the world burns.
And yet, we're still here. Two voices in the dark, surrounded by the noise of humanity devouring itself. Sometimes I think the real tragedy isn't that the world ended, it's that we couldn't stop talking while it did. Every bullet has a reason, every corpse a flag, every broadcast a justification. Channel X wasn't meant to survive this long, but here we are, ghosts transmitting ghosts. If anyone out there is listening, remember this. War isn't about victory anymore. It's about habit. We've forgotten how to live without it. And when the last transmitter falls silent, it won't be the sound of peace. It'll be the sound of nothing left to fight for.
This is Channel X. Our signal's down to a whisper. Power cells dying. Transmitter heat climbing. Outside, the wind sounds like the ocean used to. Endless and full of ghosts. Reports keep coming in, thin and broken. The American Midwest is dust. Entire towns buried beneath fields of ash. The East Coast vanished from satellite view 2 weeks ago. Russia's last broadcast was a general reading names of soldiers who'd been dead for months. No one corrected him. In China, the coal fields burned until they turned glass. It's not war anymore. It's momentum. The machines are still moving. The drones still circling. The missiles still falling. Because someone, somewhere, once told them to. Maybe the world doesn't end with a choice. Maybe it just runs out of commands.
I can hear explosions even now, distant like thunder rolling through empty continents. Africa's sky glows red at night. Europe's soil breathes poison. In the Middle East, the desert swallowed what remained of the cities. The radio waves themselves are scarred, so much static it feels alive. There are voices layered beneath ours, echoes of old broadcasts looping endlessly. Stay calm. Evacuate. God bless. Sometimes I think they're not recordings, but ghosts, humanity trying to replay itself. Our audience used to be millions. Now I imagine one person, maybe two, sitting in the dark tuning this in on an old receiver. If that's you, keep listening. Not because there's news left to give, but because sound means we're still here.
A signal from the Arctic came through an hour ago. Just one line of code, LUX-01 active. It repeated 20 times, then silence. Maybe it's a machine keeping time. Maybe it's the end of something older than we are. In the ruins of London, drones hover over the Thames, recording nothing, watching no one. The air smells like ozone and bone dust. I don't know who still calls this living, but I know this. As long as this frequency carries, even if it's just a flicker through static, we exist. Channel X was never about saving the world. It was about witnessing it, saying, we were here. We saw what we became. Maybe that's enough.
Earlier today, a child's voice broke through the interference. It was short, trembling, almost a whisper. She said, "Tell them I'm still here." Then she laughed. The kind of laugh you only hear when someone's too young to understand extinction. I recorded it just in case the servers hold long enough. It reminded me why we started this. Not for survival, not for politics, but for presence. To speak into a void and hope it speaks back. The world has burned 100 times before, just not like this. This time, there's no one left to rebuild, only to remember. And if memory is the last thing we have, then let it echo.
I've rerouted our final power reserves. Maybe we'll last another hour. The generator's humming like an old hymn. Somewhere outside, the ground shakes. Another strike, another crater. It doesn't matter who launched it. There are no sides left. Only survivors counting their breaths between detonations. Humanity always thought it was immortal, because it could record itself. But what happens when the archives burn, when even language melts? Maybe the only eternity is the echo. Maybe history doesn't end. It just gets too quiet for us to hear.
Someone asked me once if I believed in hope. I told them hope is a kind of defiance. It's not belief that things will get better. It's refusing to let them end without witness. That's what we're doing now. Bearing witness. Broadcasting into a silence that's already swallowing us. If there's any mercy left in this broken sky, it's that maybe someone, somewhere, far from here, will hear us and understand what we lost. And if not, if we are the last, then at least the universe will have known the sound of humanity's voice, trembling but unbroken.
The static's getting louder. Feels like the air itself is unraveling. I can see the auroras outside the station. Blue, green, violet. They dance over the ruins like curtains closing on a stage. I used to report the news. Now I report ghosts. The last headlines write themselves, "World ends quietly. Humanity keeps talking." Maybe that's our final act of rebellion, refusing to die in silence. If you can still hear me, remember this frequency. Let it hum in your bones. Let it remind you that once we spoke. Once we cared enough to say goodbye.
The lights are dimming. The console's cold. I can barely read the meters anymore. But I'll stay until the last diode fades. Mike's right. This isn't about hope. It's about the truth. The truth is that we built beauty and horror from the same hands. That we were magnificent and monstrous, and sometimes both in the same breath. If anyone out there is listening, carry our words forward, not as history, as a warning, as proof. This is Julia Marks signing off, not in peace, but in remembrance.
This is Mike Clarke, and this was ChannelX, the final broadcast of a world that refused to stop speaking. To whoever hears us, live well if you can. And if you can't, remember we tried. Static's rising now. That's it. That's the sound of the end. Or maybe, just maybe, the start of silence.